When storms crash through Nashville and Middle Tennessee, tornado sirens blare, and our phones blow up with metro notifications, many of us find ourselves huddled in our safe spaces, trying to calm children or pets or even ourselves, waiting for the all clear. And in those moments, many of us instinctively tune in to the live stream that brings us together and keeps us level-headed in times like these. Nashville severe weather. It all began as a simple Twitter account, and it's turned into a complex production on multiple platforms with hundreds of thousands of followers. But for one member of the team, it actually started long before that. I'm Demetria Kalodimos. It's Banner & Company. Hi, guys.
How are you?
Andrew has given me the perfect opening to this particular episode. So here we go. Dear Mr. Hall, I was wondering if maybe I could come to your weather studio and watch you do a weather report, and maybe watch the whole 6 o'clock news one evening back behind the TV cameras in the back. I'm a fourth grader at David Lipscomb Elementary. I'm very quiet, and I like weather. My brother and sister will be wild, so I won't bring them with me. I also hope that when you're all finished, I can get by the weather board and do a report by myself without the cameras. Please call me at... I live in Nashville. Talk to you very soon. Thank you for calling off snow days. Your buddy, Andrew. That's precious. And you have kept this all these years.
Well, my mom is a curator of all history in our family, and that is apparently one that she saved, which meant, as I sort of deduced from that she never sent it in. But
you're right.
but we have that copy, and that's something she has saved for a long time.
I'm so sorry you never got to the big board.
That's all right. Well, we, as many people in Nashville know, we loved Bill. I loved Bill, and growing up, and certainly respected him.
So your interest really started that early.
Started young, very young. Always have loved the weather as far back as I remember. And then there have been stages, different things that have happened over the years that have increased my love for the weather, but different events. But it's gone back a long way.
Will, how about you? Were you a young kid fascinated by the skies?
I was fascinated by the skies because my dad was an airline pilot for most of my childhood. But weather was something that I became more aware of after the 98 tornado. I was, in 1998, I was a senior at MBA. Tornado, came down through that kind of nation's Charlotte Pike corridor. We all sheltered in the bottom of the theater at the school, which was underground. And I remember the service club, the MBA service club, would go into neighborhoods in East Nashville after that, where just sea of blue tarps on roofs, and we were helping pull down trees out of people's backyards and help them try to get back to normal as service projects. And that was really impactful for me.
Yeah. And they said a tornado could never go through a downtown.
Yeah.
And if you remember,
cross the river.
Yeah. And if you remember the state flag flying on top of the Capitol, it blew out the TriStar.
Oh, wow.
And just the TriStar.
Oh, that's crazy.
Somewhere there's a great picture of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So here we sit, guys, a week after a pretty intense weather event. What went wrong or right, in your opinion, last week?
I think there were a lot of good things done. There was a lot of good messaging leading up to that event, and that's really what we focus on. Is we try to focus on taking the message of the National Weather Service, the people who do amazing work in this city and in Middle Tennessee. They're amazing scientists, taking their message and connecting it with everyday families, everyday people out here in our city. And so I think things were done right with that. I think, helping them understand the severity of it or not the severity of it, and just helping communicate on a basic level, on a fundamental level with them, I think went pretty well in this last event.
When was the idea of Nashville Severe Weather born?
Gosh. So there's a third member of our team, David, who couldn't be here today. And the idea really started with him. He created the Twitter account. About the time he did that, I was doing something kind of similar, where I was taking reports that would come in over amateur radio airwaves and putting those reports on Twitter. Hey, there's a tree down here, or a tornado was spotted there, whatever it was. And then David and I kind of found each other on the internet, right? Because we were both doing, working in parallel to some extent. And we met at the corner pub in Midtown, which used to be Granite Falls, which is now a Vanderbilt parking lot, like so much of Midtown. And we met and talked about what we wanted it to be, how we wanted it to serve the community. And we've been partners since that day. I left that day with the password to that Twitter account. And back then, that's all it was just me and him doing the best we could with what we had. So the idea came from really the need to get more precise, more local, actionable information in the hands of the mom who wants to know whether or not they're going to have soccer practice, the dad who wants to know whether or not they can plant the garden, and not necessarily have to have people rely on television, which has to cover a much wider geographic area. We wanted to just be hyper local.
Yeah. Was technology already on your side, or do you have a lot more now?
No. Back then, it was just whatever computers we had that were work laptops. We loaded radar interpolation software on them. We started just reading more and more about, academic topics related to meteorology. And when we wanted to record a video of a storm moving across the radar on our computer, we would figure out a way to prop our cell phone up on books and point it at, there was no Zoom then.
Yeah, sure.
Anything like that. Prop it up on books and have it point at the screen, and maybe they could see what we were doing. And we were really floundering with some of the technology, which is actually what, brought Andrew to us, because he's way more experienced at that and really professionalized, I guess you could say, even though we're not really professionalized to some extent, our technology presence and the way we're able to get information out.
Yeah. How much has it improved?
A lot. We've, like you said,
yeah.
like Will said, we had to, when we first started video, which was really a sort of a game changer with us. We were only on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So it was all text. And when we moved to video, we started on Periscope, which was an old Twitter product. And we would literally set our phone up on a salad plate or something and prop it up at the computer screen.
The old salad plate tripod.
The old salad plate, that's right.
Broadcasters have been doing that for years.
Sure.
Demetria, yeah.
We never showed our faces. It was just us, the computer screen. We were talking over it. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started with video. And then that was we pretty quickly moved to some additional software where we could screen capture and broadcast a little bit better that way natively from our computers. And from there, it progressed pretty quickly because we sort of got the hang of that. And then I'll never forget, we had during the 2020 tornado in Nashville, we were still in that mode of not showing our faces. It was just we were talking, or I guess I was talking at that time alone over the video, and tornado was coming through town. We were talking to a good friend of ours, James Spann, who is the chief meteorologist, ABC 3340 in Birmingham. And he's a good friend of ours. And he said, you might consider showing your faces. He said, people can read your eyes, and they can know, they might take action even a little bit more if they can see your face. And funny he said that, because as that tornado was coming, we were watching on one of our cameras as that tornado was coming through Germantown. And as I was talking, I remember thinking I would have given anything right now to be able to look in the camera and tell people in East Nashville to take shelter now.
Yeah.
And to be able to look in the camera and say that. And he said that at just the right time. So we changed at that moment to showing our faces, trying to put a face with the message.
And deeper relationships were born.
Relationships, and it seems like that, and James was right. He was right. That really has made a difference and has deepened the relationship even a little bit more with our people.
We started invoking the spirit of our wonderful friend Bill Hall, but he did have a calming influence. Were you conscious, or are you conscious of getting the right info across, but still remaining calm?
That's a big part of it, because when you're dealing with severe weather, I think people around here understand that it's life or death in some situations. Unfortunately, we have had tragedies, and even the past 5 years here in Davidson County, and so I think people understand that, but sometimes they don't have all of the information they wish they had to make decisions. And so staying calm and delivering that information in a calm way, I think helps equip them to better act without being so stressed out that they're in a fight or flight mode.
It's Banner and Company. I'm Demetria Kalodimos, and we'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
So how do you guys divvy up the responsibilities and the expertise? I mean, if something is really hitting the fan.
Yeah. Well, it's a challenge, and it depends on the day. If we're all home, because we all have jobs and families, and we're suburban dads just like anybody else. So if we're at full strength, everybody's home, able to pitch in. Generally, the duties divide out with David being the primary communicator of our outward voice, right? He is our voice, and he's arguably one of the best hazard communicators in the country. I know a lot of them, and he's really good. When it comes to the video component, that's all Andrew. It's his baby. He runs it. He's very, very good at it. My job, more or less, is to stay out of the way and collect reports that come in. So one component of what we do is that outward communication, but we also receive information. And our partnership with the Weather Service is a symbiotic one. They give us access. They don't have to, but we're just like three dudes with laptops. But we made a deal with them a long time ago that if they gave us access to the information, the inner sanctum of information, we would populate them with reports. It's important for the Weather Service to know what happens in town, where a tree fell or where shingles blew off a house, so that they can warn downstream. Well, my job is to vet and curate those reports and feed them into the Weather Service. So Andrew does all the video stuff. I take reports, and David usually keeps the stream of information flowing on our socials. We also have somebody that is just focused on Instagram. We have another person that moderates our chat when Andrew's on YouTube. And it's kind of grown up a little bit since then, since we started.
There are similar efforts around the country. Ours, of course, is the best. But were you inspired by any of those people like out in Oklahoma or some of the places that have been doing this for a long time? Have you picked up anything, or have they stolen from you?
There are other organizations that have actually reached out to us that they want to start a similar program where they are. I'm thinking of New York, Texas, down in the Austin area, I believe, and they've done great work. And so the primary thing you have to do if one of these starts, you have to create a relationship with the National Weather Service office there locally, because as Will said, it is a very two-way street with the Weather Service, and so that has been good. We've seen that pop up in several other places in the country, and they're doing great work.
Yeah, and I'm sure they were testing your legitimacy. I mean, because anyone could have called and asked to do this.
Listen, let me tell you a story. there's a guy named Tom Johnstone. When he was the warning coordination meteorologist at the Weather Service office in Nashville, he was the person that was responsible for communicating with the media, local emergency managers, et cetera. We wanted access to a proprietary chat room that the Weather Service hosts. So if you're watching TV meteorology and you see Lisa Spencer go to a computer and read a report and then come back and say, well, the Weather Service is saying X, she's reading it from that chat room. So it was important for us to get it. We were rebuffed numerous times because we were just two dudes from suburbia with laptops. We were not meteorologists. You probably wouldn't even really call us media. But we built a relationship with Tom, and there was a flooding event in Cool Springs. And we were able to prove our value because there were cars at the Cool Springs Galleria flooded up to the door handles. Mm-hmm. The Weather Service hadn't issued a flash flood warning because they didn't know about it. And we gave them half a dozen photographs in real time of it happening from our followers. It changed like that. Wow. From then on, I think he valued what we did. Things have come full circle. Tom's now retired from the Weather Service and works with us now and is our dedicated in-house meteorologist.
Wow, fantastic. People are starting to take the watches and warnings far more seriously. At least I think they are. Having been in media all those years, and of course we didn't have the high-tech radar tools and stuff, but after some of the things we've been through, the 2010 flood, the last round of tornadoes, the horrible, death and destruction in Cookeville, it's not a game anymore to anyone.
Yeah, we take it real serious. We might just, we never tried to be a television show, right? We are just some guys that are really into this and happen to be pretty good at communicating it. But we take it, I think, more seriously than some people would think, because we are kind of goofy sometimes, and we try to be funny when it's not an emergent situation. But at least for me, I won't speak for you, Andrew. I spend half my day thinking about how we're going to be better in the next weather event.
I think one thing that's very important is as you create a relationship with followers, they start to read your tone, both in text and on video.
Oh, yeah.
And so, they know when you're funny, just like your friend, just like with Will. I know his tone. I know when he's serious. I know when he's mad. I know when he's happy, whatever. Same way. And so, for example, the other night when we were on video, and I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, we could tell when it was kind of next level." Mm-hmm. That's great. That's what I want. I want them to be able to know our tone and to know when that tone changes. And because we're sort of friends, they can just tell when they need to take cover.
So give me the stats. How many followers? How many streams? I mean, what's been your high water mark? Pardon the pun.
Man, I don't know. See, now we've added Instagram, so that's close. I think that's getting up close to 100, isn't it? 100,000.
Yeah. So across our social channels, 300,000 people follow us on Twitter or X. 100,000 people follow us on Instagram. Our YouTube stats are significant. We can have anywhere. I've seen streams we've done where there's 60 or 70,000 people watching us, which is a big number. And you come back the next day and look at the total views, and it's north of 500,000 people that have seen Andrew's face talking about weather in our two counties. It's mind-blowing to me, at least. I never thought it would do this.
Well, one of the things that we sort of have gotten used to watching is, for example, the other night where we had multiple tornado warnings, was you can sort of tell when one is issued and when everybody's phones blow up or the sirens go off or whatever, because you can see the numbers bump up and okay, we got to reset a little bit and repeat some things for the people that have joined.
We've been doing it long enough now that we can tell. So if storms move west to east through both of our counties, or let's say it's a winter weather event and it's rain changing to snow, as so often is the case here, we can see in our Twitter replies it move from west to east, snowing in Bellevue, just turned to snow in Green Hills, just turned to snow in Forest Hills, just turned to snow in Antioch, and we can watch it move west to east, in those replies. I think that is a testament to the relationship that we've built with those that follow us, that they really do feel like they could help out just by sending that simple message, because as insignificant as that sounds, it really does help us improve weather science in our community.
I'm glad you mentioned sirens, too, because I remember when the whole controversy started with let's rev up the sirens again, which were sort of an old school warning system, and everyone was kind of dubious, like no one will hear it if it's loud out there. There's something about that tone and that sound that adds, makes your heart skip a beat and really makes you pay attention. It came on the other night, and I was convinced. I was downstairs with the cats immediately.
We've always said they have a place.
Yeah.
That they have a place. They're not your primary method of warning, nor should any single method be your only method of warning. But they have their place. The tone will, kind of make the hair stand up on your neck. Even on a Saturday when they're testing, we send out every single time they're testing, and we send out at that moment a message saying this is just a test. And inevitably we'll get 10, 12 replies. People say, I panicked. The first thing I did was open y'all's account just to see what it was. It just, it makes, it instantly makes you wonder what's going on. And that's what they're designed to do. But we want you to have multiple ways to get your weather information.
We're also, I am particularly buoyed by the fact that Metro Council was willing to listen to the argument that a change should be made in how those sirens are deployed, because like Andrew said, they do have a place, but there's lots of social science study out there that talks about what overwarning does to a community, what underwarning does to a community, what conflicting messages do, et cetera. And I think OEM has done a much better job of isolating which tornado warning sirens get sounded inside the polygon instead of just county-wide. And there are some people that still disagree with that, but the science bears out that polygon-based warnings, which is what we do now, are a far better alternative.
We may be preaching to the choir. Our people listening may already be followers. But for those who are just hearing about this for the first time, how do you get tuned in? When do you listen and watch? And what's your advice?
Yeah, so we're on @NashSevereWX on Twitter. We're also over on Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram. With the same name, and then we write a blog daily that goes out. You can subscribe by email to that on our website, NashvilleSevereWeather.com. We have a meteorology student at Mississippi State that writes those for us every day. Wow. He does a fantastic job.
Does he get credit?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know about school credit, but I haven't asked him about that.
He's fixing to get his own T-shirt. He became a bit of a star on this last.
He did on this last
live.
stream.
Was this the heartthrob?
The heartthrob, the young man that all the young ladies in our chat were enthralled with.
He may or may not have his own T-shirt coming out very soon. So we're
very proud of him. He's our 9th generation of intern. And typically it was junior and senior meteorology students from Mississippi State, and then we branched it out to other schools. And the reason that we felt really strongly about keeping interns in place is because we weren't really sure that schools were doing a good job teaching them how to communicate weather information or risk information on new media. They could get them in front of a chroma key and have them, talk to the wall or whatever. But I think more and more the weather enterprise is moving a bit in our direction. And we wanted to make sure that, first of all, somebody could write about a place they didn't grow up, and that they could write often and for a new media audience.
And quickly.
And quickly,
Yeah.
So Elin does that does a great job, does that for us. And so the blog, and then when there's a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning for Davidson or Williamson counties, that's when we go on YouTube Live.
Okay.
So we sort of reserve that for, because people sign up for notifications with that, and we don't want to be hitting them all the time with it. And so when there's a warning issued for one of our 2 counties, we'll be on for the duration of that warning.
It's Banner and Company. My guests are the Nashville Severe Weather Guys, Andrew Leeper and Will Minkoff. We'll be right back. How about some advice for dummies? If it's all breaking loose and you're in your car driving, what's the advice?
So with a tornado, the best thing you can do in a car, and you realize that imminently you're in trouble, is if you have time to get in a sturdy shelter, that's the best thing to do. Is to get, pull over a gas station, something, get in a building.
Underpass?
That's actually not a great
Really?
thing. There has been science done on that, research done on that, and that is actually, it can create a very strong wind tunnel effect, and being under an overpass actually is, that turned out not to be good
Okay, I
advice.
failed the test just now.
Don't do that.
Yeah, it's that's not a great one. But if all else fails, I mean, even getting down in a culvert or ditch or something just for a few moments, if you have to do it, is better than being hit in a car.
Outside of the vehicle, I've
Outside of
always
the
heard
vehicle.
laying on the ground. I
That's
mean,
right.
it's bad when you have to do that, but if it's your life.
That's when you have no other options, and that's what you do.
Yeah. What about the emergency kit? What do you guys keep at the ready, and where is it?
That's a good question. Yeah, the emergency kit. I personally take that maybe a little bit more seriously than other people would. But my kit has three main things. It's got a way for me to charge my phone. It's got a way for me to crawl out of, some situation that I'm in, whether, like a flashlight and a pair of gloves. Those, I think, are really helpful when you need them. It may seems superfluous most of the time, but when you need them, you're really glad you have it. And then the third thing that I always carry is just a backup set of some kind of identification, who I am, my wife's name, phone number, that kind of thing. Those are the three basics. And then from there, first aid, super important. A way to communicate without your phone, a whistle, something like that is super important.
Shoes?
Yeah, so if I don't have shoes on and I'm in the house, I know where those shoes are pretty quick. If you're in your home, just get a cabinet in your kitchen and throw a tote bag in there that has an extra pair of socks, a cell phone charger. You can get a little $10 portable weather radio and a flashlight, and you're a long way toward being a bit more resilient. Andrew always tells people, get in your bathtub, get in your bathroom, get a helmet. We love the idea of putting helmets on, especially on children who aren't maybe as quick to react as something headed towards their head. But there are a number of different things that you can do, and we've got some of those resources listed on NashvilleSevereWeather.com that people can dive into, or even reach out to us. Hey, I'm considering XYZ. If we have the bandwidth, we're always happy to give advice.
How do you guys survive on this? I mean, it's donations. Do you have grants? How does it work?
Yeah. We all have jobs, right? So this isn't what feeds our family or pays our bills. But we do bring in enough money to make it self-sustaining, which is, when David and I started, it was coming out of our own pocket. Not long after Andrew joined, we started asking for donations, and what people are willing to give to keep us good and on the air and resilient is just incredible. We've been able to fund weather balloon programs and camera programs. We're able to put generators in our houses so we won't go down and can stay on the air. So the donations are a huge impact. And the other way that we survive, at least in my house, is, my wife is patient with me and knows that when there is a storm, I'm going to be busy, and she appreciates that it's a service that we give to our community.
We have a joke in our house that it seems like the severe storms always happen around dinner time.
Sure.
And so definitely I will, for sure shout out to my wife and two kids, because, the number of times I've jumped up from the dinner table, it really is kind of crazy, the number of times. And that's just how it is. And so then they're in another part of the house where it's not loud. I mean, my office is right there in the hallway with their two bedrooms, and so it's just kind of keeping things quiet. They're over there, and then when I get done, I'll come out and rejoin them again. But
So is your war room a safe space?
it's not. In fact, every once in a while, in fact, it happened the other night or the other day. I said, all right, I gotta go get my family up and just have them for a little bit in our safe space, which is not the room I was broadcasting in. So,
And we throw to each other, right? So Andrew will say, hey, Andrew lives in the Nolensville community. So, hey, it's gotten to Nolensville now. I need to go shelter with my family. I live in between Brentwood and Bellevue. So the other side of the county, and generally unaffected when he is affected. So we'll throw to me, and I'll drive the ship, so to speak, for a period of time until he returns, and vice versa. So we communicate really well together. To the question of how do we survive, the donations help, our family helps, but the relationship that the three of us have and our ability to communicate, I really think is the thing that has kept us going, the longest.
I love the fact that you have merch.
Some merch, T-shirts and hoodies. We got all kinds of stuff. Because for a long time people were asking us.
well, they were, and I've got to tell you this story. My grandfather turns 96 in a couple of weeks, actually a week from Sunday, and he lives in Goodlettsville. And my grandfather loves our merch, and so he has a hat. He wears it everywhere, and he'll often go down to eat down in Goodlettsville for dinner, and people will stop him and say, hey, we follow them too. That's great. And his favorite thing to do is tell them that he's Andrew Leeper's pawpaw. He's Nashville Severe Weather's
bet.
pawpaw. Mm-hmm. And so that he loves doing that. And I think that's why he wears that hat. But
And in fact, the merch has kind of changed a little bit, because what we found in our interactions with the public is that kids really like us too. I think that because we communicate things in really a simplistic way, and we look just like the other adults that they interact with day to day. And so we have a lot of kid fans. We came out with some kid-sized T-shirts and sweatshirts, and a saying on a shirt that says prepared, not scared, because really that's, I think, kind of our ethos.
I'm curious, did either one of you ever have a particularly scary moment as a kid? Or
I had, I remember 1998 in this city, and
You weren't a senior in high school.
I was not a senior in high school. I was in 7th grade, I believe, and we spent all day in the hallways at Lipscomb, just down the road from here, and that was a scary day. It wasn't just the Nashville tornado. There were a lot of other storms that day, even starting in the morning, where we spent a good part of the day. These days we would have been out of school, but back then we were there, and we spent most of the day in the hallways. And I remember that. I remember the uncertainty that we felt. I remember the uneasiness of, and I think some of my classes were in portables, and so we weren't, of course, going back out to those. And I just remember that uneasiness throughout the whole day. I remember some nights where my mom, whisked us away to the basement, and we'd spend, about an hour in the basement. So I just remember those nights, very similar to the spring we've had this year.
yeah.
And no super close calls, luckily. But I've lived here in Nashville long enough to know we can get pretty ugly around here sometimes.
And everyone wants to get the video, the shot, the whatever. What's your feeling about these chasers and these daredevils?
Oh, man, where to begin? Listen, I'm a father of 3. I'm not going to risk my life watching a tornado or trying to get as close as I can to it. It would be cool to see one from 10 miles away on the plains of Oklahoma, but here in Middle Tennessee, our tornadoes are generally at night, rain wrapped. It's hilly here. It's a really good way to get dead as the tornado crosses Highway 100 and you're trying to follow it. Man, be careful. If I had to give them any advice, it would be stay as far away as you're able to stay. There's a reason that we put so much energy into warning tornadoes, is because they are destructive and oftentimes deadly.
Have I told you this, that my now father-in-law, he did our wedding for my wife and me, and in the vows, and we I think written our vows out, he added for mine that I should promise not to storm chase. So that was part of our. That was actually part of our. I had to say it.
That was a sacred vow.
Yeah,
I shall not.
There you go.
And so I have to, have to be very careful with that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, I'm a father of 2 kids and a husband, and I don't have any desire to go put myself in danger for that. I think it's important that we have ways to see what's going on. I think people respond better when they can see what's going on a camera that's near them. It was, that night of the 2020 tornado, and our camera that was down here in the Gulch, and we saw that tornado come. That gave us visual confirmation that the people that were watching us know that it's actually doing damage and that they need to take action. I think that's important, and the social science supports that too, that people respond when they see it. So I think it's important that we see it, but I don't want anybody putting their lives in danger to get the shot. There's a big difference between the two. Yeah. And a lot of times nowadays we just use the pretty extensive traffic camera network to do the same thing without putting anybody in danger.
Right. Well, I can tell you that Bill Hall would be darn proud of both of you.
That's
I mean, I think
praise.
he would absolutely love the public service that you're providing all of us.
What was he like?
What you see is what you get. The camera is the world's greatest lie detector. So you can't be a folksy, wonderful farm boy from Spring Hill and not play one on TV. He was exactly that.
I would love to sit across the table and have lunch with him. I
Well,
wish I could.
Speaking of lunch, the one thing I will tell you is that he had his own refrigerator, full size, in his office, with a padlock on it.
That's so much.
No one was going to get his chitlins if he didn't want to
so
share.
much.
Yeah, I miss him all the time. Him and Dan, and those were the days.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Banner and Company is a production of the new Nashville Banner. This episode was produced, edited, and mixed by Steve Haruch. The original music is by Verlin Thompson. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or go to NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company. We do a little thing at the end of our podcast. The final question is in the fishbowl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm choosing.
Yeah, I think, Andrew, you're going to choose and
Okay. All right. Let's see here.
unfold it and read it out loud and
Let's
give
see
it your
what
best.
we have here. All right. This is from Mo. What do you
want Nashville to look like in 10 years?
Will?
I want Nashville to be a more flood resilient community. It's we talked about storm chasers and the loss of life that is associated with tornadoes. In my career as an emergency management consultant and as one of the guys from Nashville Severe Weather, I've seen far too many times people's lives being impacted by flooding. It's currently happening right now in Clarksville as the result of development in that area and poor floodplain management. It is the single greatest threat to any person at any given time in Nashville during a severe weather event is, generally speaking, driving through flooded waters or floodwaters impacting their home. Not just in events like 2010 where it's an apocalyptic flood. We've seen even in this last weather event that flooding can target isolated communities. Like there was a couple parts of Green Hills that flooded people out of their homes, where I live 6 miles south of that along the Harpeth River and hardly had high water, right? I want Nashville to be a more flood conscious city in 10 years.